How much do we trust the Flyers scouts? What becomes of Sean Couturier? And more. So make sure you tune in right now. We got some really good questions to get to today. So let's start it off with our friend SG Bunch of Numbers. Love that he has started just using this as the actual screen name.
Yeah, why not?
Asks, if we acquire a 1C, Jett Luchanko is a 2C, and Cates is our 3, what's the realistic best case scenario for Coots on the next great Flyers team? And it's an interesting thought because Sean Couturier, we know, basically an immovable contract, and you can't buy him out.
No.
There's like a $500,000 savings, I think, if you buy out Sean Couturier.
Might as well
You're
keep him.
paying him either way. So unless he ends up on LTIR, and the way he's played to end this season, I really don't think that that's a thing that's going to happen. Like, he's not just going to disappear
Not this year.
unless there's another like major injury at
Yeah,
some point.
yeah.
Which I don't think that's our plan. Wait for him to get hurt. Like, I don't know if that's actually a plan.
Not a good plan.
So the way I see it, like, first, acquiring a 1C is, that's major work.
Yeah.
That is a hard thing to do.
Yes.
Whether it's draft one, we'll see where they end up. We'll see where, like, if Misa or Hagens or whoever actually ends up being like a franchise center that you can build a team around. We'll see if Jett Luchanko ends up being a 2C. He looks good.
I feel confident about that.
I hope so. I really hope that that's the case.
Yeah.
To me, I think the best case for both Cates and Coots is that they're playing together kind of in a checking role, third line.
Yeah.
Cates looks decent at center, but he's not a center. And I think there's a lot you can look at, but just Sean Couturier, yes, he has certainly slowed down. He is not the player he once was, especially offensively. He's over 55% in the face-off circle this year.
The only one that's good at them.
55.8. He's basically the only guy on the team that can win a face-off. Noah Cates, while we know he has the defensive acumen, he knows how to play center, good forechecker, all that, 45.7% in face-offs. That's real bad.
Not great.
I think you can team them up in a checking role.
Yeah.
That is a really good 2/3 of a shutdown line.
Yeah, and, the reason Noah Cates is a center is because we don't have anybody else to play center. I do think that if this was a fully formed hockey team, you'd have him at wing because it's just better for him and the team, I think. So once we get a 1C, which, as you said, not the easiest thing, although the Rossi rumors popping up out of Minnesota again.
They just do not
They don't like
him.
that dude at all. So,
Bill Guerin just wants a bigger guy. That's all it comes down to.
He does not want Marco Rossi. So, those rumors are popping up again. So maybe that's an avenue that they can explore. However, I think you're right. I think that the ideal situation is Coots is a 3C and Noah Cates is on his wing. And you have, Ryan Poehling is your 4C.
Yeah, and
that's good.
Like, just thinking about how that team would be built, like Poehling with maybe like a Lixell and someone like a fourth line that can score a little more if you're going to go Coots Cates on a third line.
Right.
Like maybe a fourth line that isn't what they're doing this year, with Poehling, sure, and then Delorier, like not that. And obviously not Abels or these guys
No, it's just warm bodies.
Yeah, who aren't NHL players. They just need somebody to do it. I think it changes maybe how you put together all four lines, but I think that's a hell of a start for a third line. And listen, if Tyson Forster, if this is all he is, like having him, now that's not the fastest line in the world, but he can score a little bit. Like that could maybe be a decent like checking line, a third line that doesn't play 20 minutes, but you get them out there for specific matchup purposes. I think you could do a lot worse. I think that's probably the best case for Coots and Cates.
Agreed.
At this point. All right, our next question comes from the id DM. Had what felt like a 90-minute dream last night that Matvei Michkov finally scored a Michigan. I woke up my son to show him the goal and listened to Torts' reaction in a post-game interview.
What a thorough dream.
What a great dream. Yeah, that is not what I dream about.
Me neither.
So if and when Mish does convert one of these, how do you think Torts responds? Because that is going to be the most fun part of it, is we finally... the Michigan, he finally scores one, all that. But it's such a stupid little storyline because of one thing John Tortorella said on TV like 4 years ago at this point.
It's the thing that he said, but also it's like his general constitution.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
I don't think it's a hockey play. Like when they showed him Trevor Zegras, and it wasn't even a Michigan goal.
Michigan.
That's for him.
Yes.
Yeah. It wasn't even a Michigan goal. It was the alley-oop play from Zegras.
Yeah.
And like they asked Torts what he thinks about it. And like he's playing a character. Again, this guy knows he might pretend to hate the media, but he's really good at it. And that's why he was,
Was he eating chicken parm at the time?
Yeah, like that's why he was in the media when he was out of coaching for that year. He goes, I miss physicality in hockey. Like, the idea being you try that stuff and you get punched in the face.
John. Yeah.
Like, all right, John. Sure. I'm of that generation too, but you got to change with the times.
Right.
So I think he plays this one of two ways, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a chance he actually raves about it, like goes over the top to the point that you're like, you just go, because he's not going to give the reporters what they want. Like that's going to be his main goal.
That's true.
So maybe he's like, did you see that? Oh my, this kid, the skill on this kid. My God, we have a superstar here. He does that.
Yeah.
Or he pretends he didn't even see it. He completely no-sells it.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, what, that high wraparound? Yeah. And then just stares at them until they ask the next question.
Right.
I think those are the two ways it goes.
I'm leaning towards the second way. And it would also be accompanied by like some kind of dig at what Michkov did on the play, like some like lapse that he made before he scored the goal.
Thank God he converted it.
Because he was way out of position when he scored that goal.
Yeah.
So good thing he got one. Like it'll be something like that.
I could like just totally downplaying it. Like, oh, the high wraparound? Like guys scoring wraparounds all the time. About time he got one.
Yeah.
How many times has he tried this?
I know.
Like, I really think it's going to be one of those two things. And yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards the latter.
The first one would be more fun.
It would be hilarious.
It would be funnier. So, John, just so you know, that's the funny route to take.
Like, I wonder, like, in my head, he knows that that's the funnier one.
Yeah.
But he couldn't bring himself to do it.
Probably
like,
not.
Even as much as he wants to screw with the media, he's like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
No.
Like, even as a joke, it's not in me. He
would just be so mad about it.
He'd certainly not be celebrating it the way that we are going to celebrate it when he does finally convert one. All right, one more question here in the shootout. It comes from Gunmars. This was submitted a little bit ago, so it says late, but maybe for a future mailbag. How confident are we feeling about the scouting department, given the trove of picks they'll be making the next few years? And honestly, it's a question worth asking.
It's a very good question, actually.
Because especially, I did the sit down a couple of days ago with the DLLS Stars guys, and I ran through like, hey, do you know, like in an alternate universe, we're you. Yeah. Like if we just made better picks, and now that they have Mikko Rantanen, who went like 2 picks after Provorov, like, there's a world in which we're the freaking Stanley Cup contending Dallas Stars. Yeah. They took Miro Heiskanen right after Nolan Patrick. They took Ottinger, a pick before we traded back into the first round to get Morgan Frost. A couple of picks after we traded up to get Isaac Ratcliffe. They took, I think that's Jason Robertson there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's the Mikko Rantanen thing now. I had such high hopes. But
he was large.
It's kind of, as much as we talk, okay, Briere and Jonesy, like even Dan Hilferty, it's a different regime at the top. But the people who do a lot of this work, I do think they've shown a decent aptitude for later round picks. Yeah. You're seeing what Alex Bump is doing. He was a 5th round guy in that 17 draft. You go to, or in 2022, excuse me, the Cutter Gauthier draft.
Yeah.
23, like, all right, the beginning of it, Matvei Michkov, that's obvious. Oliver Bonk seems like a good pick, but there's other guys people wanted there.
People were upset. Yeah.
People were, and now we know, like, oh, you wanted one of the BC guys. Well, perhaps not the best idea to use another 1st round pick on a dude who ain't coming here.
Yeah.
But then they find, like, in 4 straight picks, Bjarnason, Zavragan, Barkey, Knuble. I look at last year's draft and, like, Jett. Listen, maybe we're wrong and they're right, but right now it's like, I don't know, Zeev Buvium looks freaking awesome. We'll see. Jack Berglund, I know not a lot of people are excited about that in a second. I liked what I saw. Now his skates fit, so we'll see. But like then I see Spencer Gill. I really liked what I saw out of him in the summer and at the rookie game and everything. I think they're good at these later round picks, finding potential value.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of Michkov, who like should have gone 2 and fell to 7 for reasons, it hasn't gone great at the top of drafts for years now.
No, and you know what's interesting about that? I feel like in the later rounds, the guys that you hit on are going to be like Flyers types of players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like when you're in this version of the NHL, when you're picking at the tippy top, you can't be looking for like a big hulky smash guy, because a lot of these guys
they're drafted on
aren't
skill.
that big.
No.
And they're skill guys. They're not grinded out guys. And so I feel like it's easy for these guys to find, you know, middle 6, bottom 6 players, because those fit the classic mold of what the Flyers like in a hockey player. Whereas, you know, a super skilled small guy, like, you know, a Cole Caulfield or a Cale Makar or whatever, not a Flyers guy. And I know that, like, I don't want to relitigate the Nolan Patrick thing, because all signs point to that just being Hextall being Stone, like, just
We're
wanting that
Nolan
guy.
Patrick the end.
Which, I mean, to be fair, was the chalk pick at the time.
It's what he was supposed to do, but you get paid to be right.
Right, exactly. So part of me wonders, like, we have criticized their drafting for a very long time, and it's the same group of guys now. It's just that we have a different guy that needs to be able to take all of this input from this same group of guys and find what's correct. Whereas the guys in the past, Fletcher and Hextall, were not very good at taking those inputs and finding the correct choice. So we just have to hope that Danny Briere is better at it than they were.
And that's like, I don't believe Bobby Clark when he talks that, oh, the scouts were telling him to go get Cale Makar. It was like, no,
I bet somebody was.
If they were going to take anyone, it was going to be Mira Heiskanen from everything
yeah.
we've heard.
Yeah.
But Clark needed to, like, this is when Makar was winning the Conn Smythe,
Right.
and like Heiskanen hadn't been quite that yet. So obviously, got to make Hexy look as bad as possible.
Naturally.
But like, it was just always going to be Nolan Patrick.
Yes.
And like closed mind about it. That's what we have heard. Maybe Danny Briere can go, all right, like just be change, have his mind changed. I don't know. That's all I can think. But it is a worthwhile question. The next 2-3 drafts are kind of going to determine how this thing goes, whether it's trading these picks or actually making them. What they do with this crop of picks in 2025, 2026, and 2027 is going to determine how successful this thing is.
And to be fair, all of the picks that Danny has made so far are looking pretty good. Now, obviously, there's still a whole lot of what ifs with these kids, just like every drafted player. So until we see them in the NHL, we're not going to know for sure. But like, all signs point to like Luchanko and Barkey and Bonk and Alex Bump like being effective NHL hockey players. So like, so far so good, but there's still, it's just a lot of question marks. You don't get answers to these questions for years and years down the road.
And all we can hope for now is a top 5 pick. You get a can't miss guy and you have a difference maker. All right, that is it for us. Thank you for hanging out. This has been PHLY Flyers, the shootout. Make sure you're following us here on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Follow the podcast. You know all that. I'm Bill. That's Kelly. Take it easy, fam.